Hey, it's Gabe from Better Patterns. Today I'm going to talk about Anima Toolkit, a plugin for Sketch. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about stacks and long-form content. So blog, length articles, medium type content, and how you can use Anima stacks to make and design content that will, shift vertically and respond to certain widths as well, and all while keeping the spacing that you defined. As you can see in this little preview that Anima gives you on their website, you can basically drag and drop different items, and the layers around it will shift to keep the defined space that you set up when you first enable a stack. Let's go over to Sketch here. I set up a dummy article. It's just a basic long form article here. It's got a section up top and a section below. The one below just has two headers in it. The one on top doesn't have any headers. But as you can see in my layers list here on the left, I have everything kind of organized in parent groups. So I have my paragraphs in the top section, which then go into a body section, which then live in body content. Body content also contains the lower section as well. The lower section is the same thing, except it just has a header section in it in addition to the paragraph section. So to use stacks here, what we need to do is select the parent section of the items we want to put into a stack. So in this case, it would be the paragraphs group that contains all these paragraphs. They're all currently right now 32 pixels apart. That's important for a specific reason. I'll show you in a second. So what we'll do is we'll select the paragraph group. In the bottom right, once you have Anima installed, you'll see this little panel. We'll go ahead and click stack. And what it's going to do is look to see what the spacing was previously, right? Before hitting stack, what did you have those things set up as? And mine was 32. So it just took that spacing. We could make this whatever we want though after the fact. We could say, maybe we want it 48 instead, or something ridiculous, maybe say 150 to show this really in action. So you can see it just updates it on the fly. And it's the spacing of all the objects in that parent group, which is all these paragraphs. So I'll put it back to 32. And I'm going to make it left aligned. So we have to do the same thing with the group below, but this one's a little bit different because we have headers in it. And these headers aren't 32 pixels apart. They are 16 pixels apart. So we can't use that same spacing rule there. Plus we have a different group altogether that contains those headers for that very reason, because you can't have different spacing within the same group. It does everything in one group at the same level. So we need to have multiple groups there. So headers will make that a stack as well. This will adopt the preset sizing I had. I'll make that left aligned. And the paragraphs below that are the same as the ones I did above. That'll also be 32. I'll click stack, left align it. Let's make sure I left align headers. I did. And just a quick note, you also have an option on the stacks to make it a horizontal or vertical. Right now it's a vertical stack. But you could make it horizontal and it would shoot out left and right. I'll show you what that looks like. You can see there, it keeps the same spacing I defined, which was 32, but it's just going horizontal now. That can be useful for responsive layouts if you're going from like 4 columns or something like that to a vertical stack on mobile or something like that. You can trigger that. I'll go back to vertical. All right, so that should be set up. Now what we can do with that is if we have these in stacks, we can kind of duplicate these paragraphs here, and content will shoot down and it will maintain the same spacing for every new paragraph that I make. Or if I were to make this one very short paragraph, it'll snap the content up to fit it and maintain 32 pixels. But in this case, you can see that we're still running into the paragraphs below. So we need to go ahead and make both of these parent stacks, the body section above and the body section below, need to be in a stack as well. So first let me undo this extra stuff that I added. I think that's right. Okay. We'll select the parent body section, or sorry, the parent body content here, this group, which also needs to be a stack now. What that means is it's going to say that this section and this section are going to stay 32 pixels apart. And we can do that by clicking the parent and clicking stack, left align it. Okay. So now I can go ahead and do what I did before where I broke it. And if I duplicate it now, you'll see that the whole thing shifts down. That's what we want. We want the whole thing to act as one kind of giant, long, dynamic article. So now that's all set up, we can do some more advanced stuff. So I have some images on the left here that I grabbed from this Wikipedia page. So what we can do is kind of just place these right in the article, and it will kind of show you the power of the stacks here. So let's take this image here, I'll copy it, and I'll paste it here. Great. So automatically it just right away takes the spacing. So we're perfect. We can also drag and drop like we saw on Anima's website, right? We saw that you can click one of these things and, you know, move it around. This isn't a horizontal stack, but it's the same idea vertically. So we could take our image here and we could say, you know, I don't want it here. I want it between, you know, these two paragraphs or something. I can just grab it and just drag it up and things will shift around it. So that's really, really useful. It's really fast. You don't have to respace everything when you move something. So we can do, just for an example, do another image maybe below. I'll copy this guy. Let's put him there. Great. Right away, 32, 32. And because these are in stacks and you set everything up, it's dynamic now. If you wanted to change the spacing, you could go back and say, you know, I messed up. I don't want this to be 32 anymore. I actually want these guys to both be, you know, 48. I can update that. Now we're done. Both top 48, 48, 48, and then the bottom one also takes that. So it's really easy to update something with 2 keystrokes or so if you want to change something down the line. So it pays off to be organized and kind of set this up at the start. You can always go back and set it up after the fact, but if you're not putting things into parent groups like this, you'll have to do that kind of busy work before you can get started. Not a big deal. You should be doing that anyways. So what else can we do with this? Well, if we were to, actually, let me first go back and set this back to 32, just so it's not too tall. Okay. So what if we wanted to say, you know, this was the desktop view, now we will have a mobile view as well. So all this content needs to be shifted over to mobile, right? Which is a totally different width. Right now we're at 740. This is going to be 375 for the iPhone 8. Right away, you know, 740 is obviously, you know, twice the size of what we need it to be. So when we shrink the content down, it's going to make everything much taller, right? The thinner things get when you have content, the taller it gets as well. But because we already have this as a stack, we can actually just copy this entire content group that we made dynamic. We can bring it over into this mobile layout that I made, paste it in here. Let's paste it over here. I'll drag it down just to where I want it to start. We'll say there. And we know it's 375 wide, but let's say we want to make it 16 pixel margins on either side. So we'll say that this width is now going to be 375 minus 32. We're saying 16 off each side, right? So 16 padding on left and right. So we're going to have that. And we'll say minus 32 is C. If you don't know the math functions or the operators when you do math, if you say C, it'll subtract it from the center. So instead of just saying, if you say minus 32, it'll just take it off one end, all 32 pixels. But if I use a C there, it's going to divide it in half. So it'll take 16 off both sides, which is what we want. So it's just one less thing to calculate. So I'll do that. We get 343. Now these images actually got cropped too, but we can fix that in a second. I'll just delete these for now. We can put them in a second. All right, so now we're at the right size. We can center this. Just say 16. And we should be 16 from the sides, which I believe we are. Yep. Okay. So now we should be all set. One thing I forgot to do, and I didn't do it over here either, is actually these headers, they are dynamic, right? It'll push down, but it actually pushes right into the next paragraph. And that's because I forgot to make the parent of the headers in the paragraph section here. I forgot to make that a stack as well. So this actually needs to be a stack as well. And that'll be 16, right? So we're always going to maintain a 16 pixel spacing between the header group and the paragraphs below. So that should fix it now. So now when I duplicate these, perfect. So we need to do the same thing over here because I forgot to do that. That's what's happening, right? We're running right into the section below it. So we'll go to the parent section, we'll hit stack, we'll make that 16. left align, and 16. All right, great. Now we can put our images back in. I'll just put them in random places, but you'll get the idea. So I'll copy this one from here, and we'll paste it right here. Perfect. Now this needs to also match the same width, which was 343. Great. And we'll grab this guy too. Maybe he's down here. Perfect. 343. That's it. We're done. So now when we preview this, it's good to go. It looks like a perfectly spaced article. And all we had to do was copy over the body content from the desktop version and just change the width, because the margins will automatically, the padding between the paragraphs will automatically update. And again, we can, duplicate images if we wanted to, or we could duplicate paragraphs as many times as we want, or add more headers. Doesn't really matter. And again, we can drag and drop as well. I want this image maybe to be up here. Great, that's done. So you can move things around however you want. This image is down here. So it's really, really useful. It saves a ton of time. The longer the article, the more time you can save. I've done articles where they're 19, 20,000 pixels tall on desktop. So you can imagine what that looks like on mobile. That's 4 times that probably. And having this all be dynamic, I change a headline here or there and a paragraph here or there. I got to recalculate a bunch of stuff above and below. Now with this, it's a lot of work in the upfront, but you save that work on the other end when you're resizing everything. So hopefully this is really useful for you guys. I plan on making other videos with Anima Toolkit, going over padding with buttons, padding with cards, and other videos about other plugins that are pretty useful that I use pretty much day in and day out in my day job. So I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. See ya.